Strike one. Strike two. Strike three. You're out.
The 1919 World Series matched the American League champions, the Chicago White Sox, against the National League champions, the Cincinnati Reds. Although most World Series have been in the best-of-7 format, the 1919 World Series was a best-of-9. Baseball decided to try the best-of-9 format partly to increase popularity of the sport and partly to generate more revenue. This World Series resulted in the most famous scandal in baseball history. 8 players from the Chicago White Sox, nicknamed the Black Sox for their dirty uniforms, were accused of throwing the series against the Cincinnati Reds. The White Sox were originally slated as heavy favorites, but were later changed to the underdogs in favor of the Cincinnati Reds. Despite the rumors, most fans and members of the press accepted the games to be true, but all that would change in 1920 as the suspicions turned into confessions. It was front-page news across the country, and despite being acquitted of criminal charges, the players were banned from the game forever. The White Sox put on quite a show for themselves, losing 9-1 in a questionable fashion. Because of this, the 1919 World Series was the last World Series to take place without a commissioner of baseball. In 1920, the various franchise owners installed Kinshaw Mountain Landis as the commissioner of baseball. However, it wasn't until almost a year later that the story of the series being fixed became public. To find out what really happened, let's break down the games. The pitcher that started for the White Sox in Game 1 was Eddie Saccade. He was involved with the fixing. Saccade played extremely well during the regular season, having a 29-7 record with 30 shutouts. He also had a 2.13 earned run average, or ERA. In Game 1 of the 1919 World Series, he gave up 6 runs in less than 4 innings in a 9-1 loss. The hitting wasn't any better. The 8 players involved with the fixing went for a combined 4-19, including a 0-4 performance from superstar Shoeless Joe Jackson. Chick Gandiel had the best performance from them all, going 2-4, knocking in only 1 run, but got caught stealing. Buck Weaver went 1-4, and Fred McMullen went 1-1. It would go the same way in Game 2, when Lefty Williams, who was also a part of the fixing, went to pitch for the White Sox. During the regular season, like Chacode, Williams was a top-notch pitcher, going 23-11 with a 2.64 ERA. In Game 2, he pitched 8 innings, giving up 4 hits and 4 runs in the 4-2 loss to the Reds, but walked only 6 batters. The hitting was much better in this game, as they went 8-22, but never had the ability to drive in runs. The White Sox scored off of a few errors from the Reds in the top of the 7th. Jackson and Buck Weaver batted well, Jackson going 3-4 and Weaver going 2-4. Gandiel and Ricksburg both went 1-4, and even Williams got a hit. As for Felsch and McMullen, both went hitless. In Game 3, the White Sox sent in rookie pitcher Dickie Keir to the mound in hopes of getting the White Sox back in the series. Keir, who was involved in the fix, played extremely well for a rookie, having a 13-7 record with a 2.88 ERA. In Game 3, Keir pitched all 9 innings, only giving up 3 hits in a 3-0 shutout victory for the White Sox. On the batting side, Jackson went 2-3 but was caught stealing once. Also, Gandiel went 1-3, knocking in Jackson and Felsch on a 2 RBI hit in the bottom of the 2nd. Weaver went 1-4 and Ritzberg went 1-2. In Game 4, the Sox sent Chacade back to the pitch, having faith that he'll have a better performance than in Game 1. Unfortunately, he pitched all 9 innings, only giving up 5 hits and 2 runs in the 2-0 loss to the Reds. This wasn't Chacade's fault, as his offense just failed to get going. The batters went for a combined 3-21, with Jackson, Felsch, and Gandiel getting the only hits of the game for them. The Reds scored their 2 runs in the top of the 5th innings off back-to-back hits. Ritzberg, Weaver, and Chacade went hitless. Lefty Williams pitched Game 5, and no better than his performance in Game 2. Pitching 8 innings, giving up 4 hits and 4 runs in a 5-0 loss, the Reds scored 4 of their 5 runs in the top of the 6th off a 1-run single, 2-run triple, and a sacrifice fly. Their 5th run came in the top of the 9th when Lefty was taken out of the game. The only way to describe the Sox batting was atrocious, as they had a .105 batting average, or a 2-19. Only one player on the Sox got a hit, which was Buck Weaver, as he went 2-4. All of the other players went hitless. Game 6 was a different story. With it being an elimination game, the Sox had to win, or else the Reds would win it all. But that wouldn't be the case, as the Sox had a .363 batting average. The Sox beat the Reds 5-4 in 10 innings. All the players involved in the fixing had at least one hit, excluding Richburg. Felsch and Jackson both had 2 hits and an RBI each, along with Gandiel tallying in a hit and an RBI. Weaver had the best batting performance, going 3-5 with 2 doubles and crossing over the plate twice. Jackson got his RBI in the top of the 6th from a single that scored Weaver. Then Felsch knocked in Jackson with a double. The Sox managed to tie the game in the 6th after being down 0-4. Then, in the top of the 10th inning, Gandiel hit an RBI single that scored Weaver as the game-winning run. On the pitching side, Kier started and pitched all 10 innings, giving up 11 hits and 4 runs. Eddie Chacode went to pitch in Game 7, and did phenomenal, pitching all 9 innings, giving up 7 hits and only 1 run in the 4-1 win. The Reds' 1 run was scored in the bottom of the 6th off a single. The batting for the Sox players wasn't that great, going 4-24, but if it wasn't for the players uninvolved in the fixing, this win wouldn't have happened. The only players involved in the fixing with hits were Jackson and Felsch, both going 2-4 with 2 RBIs each. Jackson started the scoring with an RBI single in the first inning that scored Shanau Collins, who went 3-5. Jackson would knock in Collins again off a single in the 3rd. Then, in the 5th, Felsch added insurance runs with a 2-run single scoring Eddie Collins and Buck Weaver. In Game 8, Sox fans had high hopes that Lefty Williams would tie the series and make for a Game 9. But Williams pitched terribly, not even able to get past the first inning without giving up runs. He gave up 4 hits and 4 runs in the 10-5 loss. Batting-wise, Jackson batted well, going 2-5 with a home run, double, and 3 RBIs. Gandiel also got an RBI with a triple, driving in Jackson, giving him his only hit of the game. Weaver also got a couple of hits in his 5 at-bats, but the rest of the Scandals players went hitless. The series ended when Jackson hit a ground ball to the second baseman and was thrown out at first, making Reds the World Series champions. Pulling off the 1919 World Series scandal was no easy task. It took a lot of planning and organization.
You want to make some money?
Doing what?
Throwing the World Series game.
How much?
More than you'll ever make.
Sure.
Alright, I'm gonna need you to go get your friends, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
The man who constructed the event was Joseph J. Sullivan, an American bookmaker and gambler. He met with White Sox first baseman Chick Gandiel and proposed the idea of throwing the World Series. Gandiel then recruited other players to help throw the game. Sullivan also met with noted organized crime boss Arnold Roston, who agreed to bankroll the fix for $80,000. Gandiel received $35,000 for his role in throwing the World Series, nearly 9 times his 1919 salary of $4,000. After the scheme had been exposed, Sullivan did not testify in front of the Chicago grand jury hearing in October 1920, because William J. Fallon, the lawyer of Arnold Roston, persuaded Sullivan not to do so. If Sullivan had testified, it would have exposed the fact that Roston had been the one providing the money for the Black Sox players to fix the series. When called to testify before the grand jury, Roston denied all involvement with the scandal. He shifted the blame to his former associate, Abe Adel. Roston was eventually exonerated of all wrongdoing. Adel's name appeared in the newspaper headlines related to the scandal. However, he denied ever being involved. Now, what exactly happened to the treacherous players from the Black Sox? After suspicion arose from the loyal fans as to what really happened in the fateful games, inquiry arose and the real results of the games were questioned. Due to this, officials pursued these questions. The 8 players involved in the scandal were put on the stand to answer for their crimes. It would only go and do so on the promise of the readmission to the professional baseball as a reward. And then the truth finally came out. The felons confessed to having purposely thrown the game, yet untrue to their word, officials never allowed these players to compete in professional baseball ever again, even though the players were eventually acquitted of all charges of fixing the game or even having knowledge of the game being fixed. The officials only owed true to one single statement, following this: regardless of the verdict of the juries, No player who throws a ball game will ever play professional baseball again. The 8 players involved in the 1919 World Series scandal changed the name of baseball forever, and now there is a commissioner required to be present at all World Series games.